The story of the will in the rain. The Thanksgiving night that year, the rain fell in sheets like an iron curtain. On the worn wooden steps of the family home, Henry, a man in his 70s with silver hair and eyes still sharp as blades, stood motionless, staring at a paper taped to the front door. Notice of relocation to assisted living, effective immediately. The signature below belonged to Jason, his eldest son. Henry closed his eyes. Under the sound of the rain, he thought he heard Margaret, his wife who had just passed, whispering from a time gone by. Don't be afraid of being alone. When the rain falls heaviest, you can see the people around you most clearly. That afternoon, Jason and his wife, Chelsea, stood in the living room with voices as cold as the weather. Dad refuses to sign the financial power of attorney, so we can't manage the house. He forgets pills, leaves the stove on, and it's dangerous. Henry calmly poured tea. I still remember how your mother and I counted every coin together. Chelsea smiled, the kind of smile that marks a small victory. We're doing this for Dad. I already put down a deposit on a care facility. In the corner, Lily, the youngest daughter, clutched a drenched wool scarf. Jason, can you at least ask Dad once? Jason ignored her. Chelsea added, Dad can stay there for a while. We'll sell this house to pay off debts, and the rest is for Dad's care. For Dad. The phrase sat heavy like a stone in Henry's shoe. Henry set down his teacup and felt the paper Margaret had left before she died against the inside of his coat pocket. If you still can see clearly, look all the way through. Don't make decisions while grief is fresh. After the funeral, Jason grew oddly proactive. He came every morning with stacks of documents, insurance forms, loan papers, proposals to transfer property to avoid complications later. Lily kept bringing stew, patched the porch steps, and called the repairman when the stove broke. She asked only for one small thing. Dad, let me keep a spare key just in case. One evening, Henry left the answering machine running. The recording caught Chelsea's voice. Did you sign the sale for the lakeside house yet? The broker is waiting. Sell the old place and roll the proceeds into one account. Dad's getting older. If we don't close now, we'll miss the window. Jason's voice was steady. He's reluctant. I'll use the assisted living option. Lily tries to interfere. I'll block her. Henry sat still. The lakeside house, the property everyone assumed was theirs, in fact had a complicated history. The paperwork showed a private trust arrangement in which Henry's name was listed. But there had been a quiet agreement years ago that only Margaret fully understood. That night, Henry knocked on the door of Mrs. Harper, the neighbor who had once worked as a legal secretary. She handed him a card. Sam Reed, attorney. Sam was my top student. He's discreet and careful. Attorney Sam Reed listened quietly as Henry spoke. When the old man finished, Sam asked, What do you want? I want my son to understand. A legacy is a gift, not earned wages. But I don't want revenge. I want him healed, Sam nodded. Then we need a 2-layer plan. Lawfully protect the assets, and stage events that reveal people's true character. Over the next 2 weeks, several quiet moves were made. Henry arranged for the current family home to be sold rapidly to a community housing fund. But the sale included a lifetime leaseback, so Henry could remain there. The sale documents were sealed and the buyer agreed to confidentiality until Henry permitted disclosure. The lakeside house, Sam unearthed the old trust paperwork, was placed into a trust for Margaret. Then Henry named Lily and his granddaughter Molly as beneficiaries. He did not sell it. Henry's savings were split. Part was set up as a scholarship fund for underprivileged children in the town, secretly in Margaret's name. The remainder was placed under a conditional account for Lily. Withdrawals permitted only for Henry's medical expenses or house repairs. Finally, Sam suggested a seemingly odd move. Henry should voluntarily stay at the assisted living residence for just 2 days. To see who comes, who leaves, and who says what, Sam explained. Henry was reluctant but agreed. "I don't want to humiliate my children in public," he said. Sam smiled gently. "It's not to shame, it's to reveal. Once the truth is visible, we invite them to a conversation." The assisted living facility was clean, and the staff were kind. But Henry couldn't sleep the first night. He stared at the ceiling and remembered how Margaret used to rub his hands when the cold came. Early in the morning, he heard a familiar car. Lily rushed in, carrying a warm coat, and before the children, neighbors, and press, he bowed his head. "Dad, I'm sorry for using you as a means to an end. I'm sorry for trying to turn family into a transaction. I can't erase what I did, but I can do better. I accept the job on the scholarship fund's terms, and I promise to work honestly to help the community." Lily studied him and handed him the spare house key. "You can't sell the house," she said quietly, "but you can come here every weekend. Being a father is earned, not automatic." Henry stood at the window and watched the scene. In his chest, a scorch of anger cooled to ash. He understood that forgiveness does not erase the past. It creates a new chair at the table for the future. Jason started work at the scholarship fund. He did tedious tasks, learned to listen to the elderly woman telling stories of her youth, explained budgets to bright-eyed students, and said no to bribes from contractors. Chelsea could not tolerate the change. She moved out and filed for separation, stating in the papers that she couldn't accept a husband who put such low priority on financial gain. Jason didn't contest it. He saw his faults, letting money choose his partner. Molly stayed mostly with her mother, but on weekends she came to the lakeside house. At first she clung to Henry. Slowly, she allowed her father in again. Jason taught her how to set up a chessboard and told stories about Margaret planting irises. Each small act knit what was frayed. One day Molly asked, "Dad, is our house real?" Jason hesitated. Henry answered, "A real home isn't a building without rain. It's a place where you're allowed to fail and allowed to fix things." From the attic, Henry brought down a wooden box. Inside was Margaret's journal. Between yellowed pages was a sentence. "We are owners of a tree. We are caretakers of the soil. The tree may be sold. The soil remains." Henry closed the book, looking at his son. Both understood. Before Christmas, Chelsea filed a formal complaint in court, alleging that Henry lacked legal capacity and that transactions putting the lakeside house into trust were invalid. The local press smelled a scandal and arrived with cameras and questions. Attorney Sam prepared a defense, but Henry knew a court fight would drag his family into shame. Instead, he called for a public forum at the town hall, a place where the community held meetings, raised funds, and discussed shared projects, and asked for the event to be broadcast live. He wanted transparency. On the day, the rain fell, but people filled the hall. Henry walked to the microphone and spoke, his voice hoarse but sure. I, Henry, declare I am of sound mind and will take responsibility for my decisions. I sold the old house to a community fund with a lifetime lease. The lakeside house is in the Margaret Trust, with conditions to keep it active for children. I invite anyone who doubts to examine the documents. He turned the microphone to Jason. The son drew a breath and said, I withdraw the complaint my wife filed. I acknowledge my mistakes and accept employment with the scholarship fund. If, after 3 years, I haven't proven I can change, I will forfeit any future claims. The hall murmured, then quieted. Chelsea rose, her face set. You're giving up your claim? She demanded. Jason answered calmly. The greatest legacy I want to leave my child is a father of integrity. That's mine to choose. Chelsea walked out into the rain. The door closed with a final distant sound. 3 months later, the town opened the Margaret Reading Room at the lakeside house. Children came to learn, to fish, to plant irises by the water. Lily managed the property. Molly was the little librarian. Jason kept the books balanced and the accounts in order. Henry sat on the porch, watching sunlight catch the rain-slicked surfaces. One evening, Henry placed a hand on Jason's shoulder and said, "Play a game?" Jason brought out the old wooden chess set from the box. Molly ran up, tugging at Jason's sleeve. "Dad, tomorrow I'm telling my class about Mama Margaret. Is that okay?" Henry smoothed her hair. "Yes. Tell them how she taught us to plant kindness." If this story touched your heart, hit like to support the channel. Subscribe now to never miss more intense, dramatic, and inspiring family stories. Share this video with friends to spread this powerful message of resilience and empowerment.